Darkness spreads. The air thickens with rot. From the shadows, they stumble forward, once men, now shambling husks of plague. These are the Poxwalkers of the Death Guard. On this Halloween edition of Brush and Blood, we'll summon the shambling horrors of Nurgle, the plague zombies of Warhammer 40,000.
Welcome back to Brush and Blood, where Warhammer meets the real world. Today, we're painting the Poxwalkers, the plague-ridden dead who march alongside the Death Guard. As I layer decayed flesh, rusted blades, and diseased greens, we'll explore their lore, their place in Nurgle's legions, and the grim echoes they share with myths, history, and horror. Disclaimer: this is for entertainment purposes only. Lore and history details may not be exact. This is about storytelling and painting minis. Who are the Poxwalkers? Poxwalkers are what happens when Nurgle's plagues claim their victims. Once loyal citizens of the Imperium, they become rotting shells, driven by the plague god's will. Their skin sloughs from their bones, their eyes glow with sickly light, and their laughter becomes a twisted chorus of joy and agony. To the Death Guard, Poxwalkers are more than cannon fodder. They are a tide of inevitability. Wave after wave, they overwhelm the living with sheer numbers, their touch spreading infection like wildfire. They're not just zombies, they're contagion-made flesh. Every wound they inflict creates more of their kind, turning armies into plague hordes within hours. Fun facts and lore. Poxwalkers never feel pain, fear, or exhaustion. They march until they rot away. Nurgle twists them into grotesque parodies of their former lives, still clutching tools, weapons, or even toys from their past. Their laughter is one of their most terrifying traits. Unlike mindless zombies, Poxwalkers cackle and joke as they fight echoes of Nurgle's gift of joy. Tabletop tie-in. In 40K, Poxwalkers are cheap, expendable units. But that's the trick. They're tar pits. They bog down elite enemies, spread contagion, and multiply into bigger problems the longer they survive. Lore vignette: the fall of Halatus Hive. Picture this. The world of Halatus Hive is quarantined. Vox calls cry out as plague spreads through the streets. Guardsmen set up barricades, weapons at the ready. But then, the coughing begins. Soldiers stagger, skin blistering, eyes glowing. Within minutes, comrades turn on comrades, laughter bubbling from rotting throats. The barricades break not from the enemy outside, but from within. By nightfall, Halatus Hive is silent. Its streets are filled, not with the living, but with Poxwalkers, shuffling endlessly through the plague fog. The Death Guard don't need to storm cities. They just need to wait. The breach of Sindral's spire. On the forge world of Sindral, the tech priests thought themselves untouchable. Their spire fortresses were sealed, their corridors guarded by gun servitors and Skitarii patrols. When the first plague bombs fell, alarms blared and filtration systems roared to life. The priests congratulated themselves, confident the machine god's works would keep them safe. But then, the coughing began in the lower forges. Workers collapsed beside their machines, only to rise again with glassy eyes and crooked smiles. Poxwalkers flooded upward, shambling through manufactoria halls in endless waves. No tactic, no retreat, just an ocean of plague flesh, pressing forward until servitors were torn apart and Skitarii were dragged down screaming. The spire held for 3 days. On the 4th, the doors buckled. The priests sealed themselves in their sanctums, chanting binaric prayers, but the walls could not keep out the laughter. By the week's end, the entire spire was silent, its foundries gone cold. When the Death Guard arrived, they did not need to fire a shot. The Forge world had already remade itself into a shrine of rot. The Omnissiah's song was drowned by the plague god's choir, endless, rasping, joyous. Real world parallels plague and undeath. The idea of the plague dead is older than Warhammer. In the Black Death, entire cities were left silent overnight. The fear of sudden, unstoppable infection has haunted humanity for centuries. In folklore, zombies and revenants rose not just from graves, but from plague pits. The walking corpse is the ultimate symbol of infection that spreads even after death. Modern parallels echo in pandemic fears where disease feels unstoppable, invisible, and contagious beyond reason. Poxwalkers combine all of this. They're medieval plague victims, modern zombies, and demonic puppets rolled into one. The psychology is clear. You can't reason with plague. You can't negotiate with rot. Against Poxwalkers, the living face their own fragility and the horror that death might not be the end. OP culture parallels. The Walking Dead, endless hordes of the infected, more tide than army. The real horror isn't the dead themselves, it's watching the living crumble. Friends forced to put down friends. Hope dissolving into instinct. Every barricade gives way, not to strength, but to numbers. Poxwalkers mirror that dread perfectly, except in their world, there are no survivors left to mourn. The infection always wins. The Last of Us, a story of infection that wears tragedy like a mask. The monsters aren't mindless. They were people, once parents, lovers, soldiers, now hollow vessels of a fungus that turns mercy into madness. That's what makes Poxwalkers so haunting. They're not just corpses animated by rot, but souls rewritten by Nurgle's gift. Each grin, each giggle is what's left of someone who used to pray for deliverance. Resident Evil grotesque parodies of humanity. The innocent now stalking the ruins of cities, eyes clouded with rot. Like Umbrella's failed experiments, Poxwalkers aren't just monsters, they're victims turned into weapons. Each one is a success story in Nurgle's endless laboratory of death. And unlike zombies that moan for release, Poxwalkers laugh, because to them, the rot is a gift. Now picture all of that, but with the laughter of a god who calls decay divine. That's the Poxwalkers, the infection that never dies, and the damned who no longer want to be saved. Psychology of fear and contagion. Why do zombies terrify us? Because they are us. Friends, family, neighbors stripped of identity and turned into threat. They blur the line between the familiar and the monstrous. The fear isn't just dying, it's becoming the thing that hunts you. Poxwalkers turn that fear up to 11. They aren't silent, shambling corpses. They laugh, they mock, they celebrate their infection. They don't beg for release, they praise the rot that devoured them. Every grotesque giggle is a hymn to Nurgle, the plague god of life and decay. They embody the horror that not only will we die, but that we might enjoy it as it happens. That's the true psychological power of contagion. It's not just a disease of the body, but of the mind. It spreads through fear, through hopelessness, through the idea that resistance is pointless. In every era, humanity has faced this terror. The Black Death, the Spanish flu, pandemics that erased the line between the sick and the damned. Poxwalkers are that fear-made divine infection elevated to worship. And that's why they linger in the imagination. Because deep down, we know that the most dangerous kind of evil isn't the one that destroys us, it's the one that convinces us it's a blessing. And there you have it. 30 Poxwalkers in 3 different colors. Classic plague green, corpse blue, and bruised purple. Each shade more rotten than the last. A carnival of contagion, straight from the plague god's palate. The kind of minis that make your brush feel unclean no matter how many times you rinse it. The Poxwalkers, shambling dead, plague-born horrors, and the laughter of despair echoing through the night. This has been a Halloween edition of Brush and Blood, where the minis get a little darker and the stories a little colder. Fun fact, next time, we'll be painting Folgoth Grelch, one of Nurgle's foulest champions, twisted by plague, armed with rotting relics, and said to spread contagion just by walking onto the battlefield. Some legends claim entire hive cities have fallen simply by Folgoth's presence, his aura of decay choking the air before a single shot was fired. Until then, keep your brushes clean and your respirators closer.
Not too bad.
Folgoth is